Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the AERA President, Vivian Gadsden.
Thank you so much. I am just delighted to see all of you. And I am very pleased to welcome you to the 5th Annual AERA Awards Luncheon. This is a special occasion, and it is an opportunity to celebrate the field of education research and the accomplishments of AERA-wide awardees and those who receive presidential citations. Now, the AERA Awards program is one of the most prominent ways for education researchers to recognize and honor the outstanding scholarship and service of our peers. This year's award winners exemplify commitment to the study and practice of education, and we are proud to honor their outstanding scholarship and service to the field. This wonderful event would not be possible without the generous support of our sponsors, and I want to take a minute to recognize our generous champion and advocate sponsors. First and foremost, I know Gloria would disagree, the best school in the universe, the University of Pennsylvania Graduate School of Education. The Texas A&M University College of Education and Human Development. The University of Georgia. And I'm partial to the next one, the University of Michigan School of Education, go blue. And last, the University of Southern California, Rosier School of Education. And thank you to our other sponsors for their support. I would also like to recognize our outgoing journal editors, whose vision, dedication, and hard work are vital to the success of these publications that are so important to the field of education research. A big thank you to the following outgoing editors. And having been a co-editor of ER, these people are truly doing God's work. Frank Worrell, Review of Educational Research. Patricia Alexander, Felice Levine, and William Tate for the centennial volume of Review of Educational Research. Harold O'Neill and Teresa McCarty, the centennial issue of the American Educational Research Journal. While we gather here today in celebration of the best of education research and to honor our awardees, it is also important to remember those whom we lost this past year. I ask you to join me in a moment of silence for those who have passed. Thank you. I'm now pleased to begin the awards presentation portion of the program. Let me welcome to the stage Carolyn Harrington, Chair of the Early Career Award Committee, to present our first award. Carolyn.
How are you? Good afternoon. On behalf of the Early Career Award Committee, composed of George Bernstedt, Zhao Young, Jennifer King, and Zeus Leonardo, proud to announce this year's awardee. Also, I'd like to add that on behalf of the committee, that after reading the work of all of the early career scholars nominated for this award, we can report with confidence that educational research is in very good hands. This year's awardee has focused on one of the most important issues facing educational research and educational policy, the quality and saliency of standards-based reform. His work has interrogated mercilessly the key constructs of standards-based reform for alignment and coherency. I'm proud today to announce Dr. Morgan Polikoff as this year's award recipient.
Thank you very much to the committee for this award, and to my colleagues Bill Tierney and Catherine Strunk for nominating me. I'm profoundly honored. On June 8th, 2006, I packed up my bags and left Chicago to start my PhD at Vanderbilt University. I'd applied to their MPP program, but someone in the admissions committee saw something promising in my application and convinced me to apply for the PhD instead. That moment in the admissions committee turns out to have defined my life. 6 days after I moved to Nashville, I had dinner with a handsome Southern gentleman who would later become my husband. At the same time, I started working on a couple projects led by my advisor, Andy Porter, and his wife and co-conspirator, Laura Desimone, work for which I followed them from Vanderbilt to Penn a year later. In many ways, Andy is like a father to me, and I owe much of my academic success to him. Everything else I owe to my mother, who raised my brother and me mostly alone through financial and personal struggles. She taught me that common sense and honesty are just as important as smarts and hard work, and she showed me how to lead a simple, uncluttered life. Nothing I've accomplished since I started studying policy has happened without my husband, Joel, by my side. He is truly my other half. My goal as an academic is to produce research with consequence, to bring evidence to bear on the important education policy issues of the day. I am fortunate to be at USC-Rasir, a school that truly values impact and public scholarship and supports its junior faculty to do this kind of research. In these fraught times, we as a community of scholars committed to truth must always, as we say at USC, fight on. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Catherine E. Snow.
Thank you. It's my great honor as chair of the Palmer O. Johnson Memorial Award Committee to convey this award to Katie Broughton, who together with Sarah Goldrick-Rab and James Benson produced a paper of remarkable clarity and elegance in writing, and also a paper that generates a really important finding that a relatively small grant will help low-income college students be able to balance their lives as students and their leisure and work lives much better than otherwise. I should thank the committee that made this selection, made it after having scanned all of the articles produced by all of the AERA journals in 2016, and arrived with no dissension whatsoever on this choice. So my fellow committee members were Bruce Baker, Eva Baker, Arnitha Ball, and Yasmin Kafai. And we are thrilled to be able to present this award to Katie Broughton, who is here to receive it today.
Good afternoon. I want to begin by saying that I am honored and truly humbled to accept this award, especially at this stage in my career, and join past recipients whom I've long admired and respected. I'd like to start by acknowledging my brilliant co-authors, Sarah Goldrick-Rab and James Benson, who are unable to be with us here today. Sarah and James started working on this paper several years ago, and I'm very grateful to them that they trusted in me and allowed me to make it my own and bring it to publication. We'd like to thank Palmer O. Johnson's colleagues and students who founded this award in his honor, and this year's selection committee for recognizing our work. I also want to be sure to acknowledge that hundreds of researchers and others contributed to the research study that we used in this paper, and that project was managed by the always incredible Allison Bowman. And finally, I want to thank the students who joined with us to make this research possible. We appreciate you and we thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Kent McGuire.
Let me start by saying that a minute is not enough time for me. I want to thank the committee on Research Awards, Lauren Anderson, Gerald Campano, Violet Harris, and Aaron Palace. It was a tough assignment given the quality of the work available to us, but we could not in the end have been more impressed with the work of Drs. Artiles, Dorn, and Ball, who provided a provocative review of the history of disability and the research traditions associated with it. On behalf of the committee and association, couldn't be more honored to present this award.
Thank you very much. We are deeply honored by this recognition, particularly because the publication came out in the centennial issue of RRE. There were so many reviews of research, not only RRE, but other journals that are equally or more deserving this year. So we are deeply honored by that. I worked with a great team. I learned a great deal from Sherman Dorn and Aidan Ball. I'm grateful for the opportunity to work with them. I want to thank the editors of RRE for this volume, Pat Alexander, Felice Levine, and Bill Tate. I think they're all here today. Our paper examined disability intersections as a case in point about the paradoxes of educational justice. We documented in this review the dual nature of disability, both as an object of protection that provides entitlements and services to students with disabilities, but also as a tool of stratification for racial minority students and language minority students, as well as low-income students, mainly because of the long-term consequences that come with the diagnosis. And this paradox has been at the heart of our equity efforts in the history of American education. We hope that our work will contribute to refine our understanding of educational equity and inform research programs in the future. Thank you.
This is a true honor. We are on indigenous lands. First of all, I would like to acknowledge and honor the culture, heritage, and struggle of indigenous nations in the United States. I would like to thank the Review of Research Committee, my family, Jennifer, Devrim, Alev, Selver, Ayla. It's a privilege to receive this award with my distinguished colleagues, Dr. Dorn, and my advisor and mentor, Dr. Artiles, wonderful role model. I hope the conceptual and methodological tools that we put forward in this review will contribute to a paradigm shift in the field of education research to transform the disabling systems with local stakeholders, specifically those from historically excluded from decision-making processes. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Shirley Bryce Heath.
Thank you. All of these awards are very important to us. I think if the truth be known, some of us look forward most of all to the award I have the privilege of announcing, which is for the selection of the AERA Book Award. I'm thrilled, absolutely thrilled, to announce a volume honored by the committee for its narrative power, long view perspective, and conceptual play between the local and the international. Very difficult to achieve. The book is Lives in Limbo, Undocumented Uncoming of Age in America by Robert G. Gonzalez. The author follows his participants and himself over 12 years, inviting readers to come alongside with him as he learns, as he watches and learns with the young people, and ask us to explore the very current, knotty issue we all face of what it means in America today to belong and to move towards citizenship as being a true part of America. Thank you, Robert. What a gift you've given all of us.
Thank you. This is a great birthday present. The book represents 12 years following a group of undocumented young people in the Los Angeles area, spread across 5 counties. This could have been an ethnography on driving, for those of you familiar with LA. I logged many miles and went through 2 cars. But really, this arc is really for me, a 25-year arc that started in Chicago right after college. Today is the 25th anniversary of the uprising in Los Angeles, or the LA riots, April 29th, 1992. I had a chance to move to Los Angeles to teach high school then, but ended up choosing Chicago instead. And it was in Chicago where I first started meeting young people that had grown up alongside of American-born peers and friends, and had really participated in really lockstep fashion through childhood, but at a really critical time at 14, 15, 16 years old, they started hitting dead ends. And so I finally got to Los Angeles 10 years later, and really that began this long-term inquiry into this basic question: what happens to these children as they make critical transitions through adolescence and young adulthood? Too many people to thank. I want to thank Ruben Rumbaut, Leo Chavez. I want to thank the committee for providing the platform, particularly at this very salient political moment. And finally, I want to say that last week somebody introduced me and said that I give a voice to this population, and I was quick to correct this person. We cannot give voice to marginal populations. The best that we can do is to lend our voice. Thank you very much.
Please welcome to the stage Dorinda J. Gallant.
On behalf of the Committee on Scholars of Color and Education, it is an honor to present the following 3 awards. The Scholars of Color in Education Awards are intended to recognize scholars who have made significant research contributions to the understanding of issues that disproportionately affect minority populations, and scholars of color who have made significant contributions to education research and development. I would like to thank committee members Dolores Delgado Bernard, Joe Mills Braddock II, Leslie Gonzalez, Shonda Lemon Smith, and George Wimberly. The first award, the Early Career Contribution Award, is presented to a scholar who is within the first 10 years of his or her career after receipt of the doctoral degree. This year's award recipient is Dr. Maria Ledesma. Dr. Ledesma is an assistant professor of educational research and policy at the University of Utah. Her research focuses on equity-oriented critical policy analysis for praxis, including the historicizing and contextualizing race-conscious social policy in higher education. In the words of her nominators, it is clear that Dr. Ledesma's unwavering commitment to advancing equity for racially minoritized students drives her to seek new vantage points from which to understand persistent challenges. Unafraid to take on new literatures, Ledesma grapples with several disciplines in order to attract a more diverse audience into critical conversations around racial justice and affirmative action. We are so thankful that we have had the opportunity to learn from our contemporary, Dr. Ledesma. Congratulations, Dr. Ledesma.
I would like to begin by thanking the Committee on the Scholars of Color in Education for this honor, especially Dr. Leslie Gonzalez and Dr. Dolores Delgado Bernal. I'm very humbled by this award. I'm also very cognizant that I stand before you thanks in large part to opportunities created by people both known and unknown that allowed a student like me, a first-generation Chicana, to pursue higher education. I want to thank social justice, equity-oriented education leaders, researchers, and policymakers. I want to thank my family, including my academic peers and colleagues. And I owe a special thank you to my academic family, who keeps me grounded, especially when those imposter syndrome moments creep in. Gracias to Rebecca, Lola, Dimple, Tracy, and Uma. Thank you.
The Mid-Career Contribution Award is presented to a scholar who is beyond the first level of professional appointment and for whom at least 10 years have passed since receipt of the doctoral degree. This year's award recipient is Dr. James L. Moore III. Dr. Moore is Distinguished Professor of Urban Education and Executive Director of the Todd Anthony Bell National Resource Center on the African American Male at The Ohio State University. He is nationally and internationally known for his research in urban education, school counseling, multicultural education, counseling, gifted education, STEM education, higher education. In the words of one of his letter writers, Dr. Moore has a distinguished history of making important contributions to the field of education, is highly regarded among the faculty, staff, and students for his record of accomplishments, and is a strong model of a colleague whose scholarly contributions and professional practices have advanced the study and knowledge of urban education, gifted education, higher education, multicultural education, and STEM education specifically for African American males, not simply locally on the College of The Ohio State University, but also nationally and internationally. So I would like to congratulate Dr. Moore.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank the Committee on the Scholars of Color for selecting me for its Mid-Career Award. Receiving such an award is an honor that I will forever be grateful. I would like to thank so many people, but I would first like to start to thank my family in South Carolina that's probably trying to watch this via web. All that I am and that I hope to be is shaped by my experience growing up in South Carolina. And so I want to recognize the village in which nurtured me, loved me, and cared for me, so that I am at this point in my career. I also like to thank my current and my former students. I'd like to thank my friends, my colleagues, and mentors, my friends and colleagues at the National Science Foundation, my friends and colleagues at Ohio State University. I thank you for this honor. I will forever cherish it, and the Moore name will forever be recognized in the annals. So thank you for this opportunity.
The third award is the Distinguished Career Contribution Award, and it's presented to a senior-level scholar, usually 20 years or more after his or her receipt of the doctoral degree. This year's recipient is Dr. Antonia Darder. Dr. Darder, who's the Levi Presidential Endowed Chair in Ethics and Moral Leadership in the College of Education at Loyola Marymount University and Professor Emerita of Educational Policy, Organization, and Leadership at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, is an internationally recognized Freirian scholar. She is known for her research on political questions and ethical concerns related to racism, class inequity, language rights, critical pedagogy, Latino education, and social justice. In the words of one of her letter writers, Dr. Darder's impact as a scholar of color is demonstrated through her rich background in applying education research to social justice and the transformation of both policy and practice in the social context of education. Dr. Darder's pedagogy, writings, public lectures, artistic endeavors, and community activism through the last 35 years have consistently upheld the integrity of her subject focus, anchored on the principles of critical consciousness and an uncompromising commitment to the struggle for social justice, human rights, and economic democracy. Congratulations, Dr.
They said we had 1 minute, so here goes. I'm happy to be here. Thank you to the Committee on Scholars of Color, especially for making visible the work of scholars of color that continues to be marginalized within the Academy in so many ways. That I accept this award humbly in the name of thousands of people who persistently labor to change the oppressive conditions of education in this society and the world, where social and material inequalities persist. When as a young Latina, single mother, a student, I was asked to be a research assistant at Pasadena City College on a study on diversity, I never would have believed that 43 years later, we would still be struggling with the same issues of poverty, of lack of opportunities, of push out of our youth, and mass incarceration of our communities. This is to say that we have a long way still to go, and a few awards to scholars of color in no way alter these persistent inequalities or the need for deeper structural changes within this organization and the field of education. I know that to issue a critique at this celebratory moment is indeed a difficult task, but I would be remiss to leave unspoken the thousands of microaggressions and struggles that persist within the academy in this country. And there's no way that I could stand here and not notice that the people who have been serving us, the people that were here 2 hours before we even sat at these tables, the majority are working class people of color who serve us day in and day out and remain invisible. There's no question that we need to make huge ideological and material shifts in our work. We need to shatter the black-white binary. We need to step out of the patriarchal, racialized, and capitalist logic of production and move towards a culture of struggle and transformation with respect to what it means to be an educator and a researcher in these precarious times. So again, in the name of all of those who are excluded from such forums, I thank you for this award, but I especially thank my comrades and colleagues, my teachers, my students, friends and family who have allowed me to persist for over 43 years in this recalcitrant and difficult struggle for our dignity and our liberation. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Karen L. Graves.
Thank you for those comments. On behalf of the Committee on Scholars and Advocates for Gender Equity in Education, I am pleased to introduce Catherine C. Scantlebury. Dr. Scantlebury is professor in the Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry and Director of Secondary Education at the University of Delaware, and Distinguished Visiting Professor at the Center for Gender Research at Uppsala University. Her publications on feminist, gender, intersectional, and globalization perspectives on science education span 4 decades. Her collaborations reach around the world. Professor Scantlebury's research and professional practice have advanced public understanding of gender in education, particularly in the knowledge-producing interactions between empirical research, theory, and teaching. At a time when citizens are taking to the streets to demand rights for women and respect for science, or I could say respect for women and policy that gets the science right, Dr. Scantlebury's work is as important now as ever. I am honored to present the American Educational Research Association Award for distinguished contributions to gender equity in education research to Catherine C. Scantlebury.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank Karen and her committee for this award. I would also like to thank the nominees, and if you would like to tell me who nominated me for this award, I would very much like to thank you in person. So going along with that, in particular, I thank Jane Butler Cayley. She brought an Aussie to America 30 years ago, and she's been my mentor, my friend, and my professor ever since. Dr. Ken Tobin has also been a major mentor in my scholarship and my life, making me think about different things from different perspectives. And I would not have had this success without the support of the University of Delaware's College of Arts and Sciences, and in particular my Dean, George Watson. In the past 7 years, I've been very fortunate to be a research professor at the Center for Gender Research in Uppsala in Sweden. And my colleagues there, both in science education, science, and across the disciplines, have in particular pushed my thinking and my understanding about gender and feminist research in ways that I hadn't appreciated. Specifically, I'd like to thank Anita Husserson, Christine Andersen, Anna Danielsson, and Annika Goldborg for their friendship and their scholarship, and I look forward to seeing them again in next month. And finally, another community that has supported and challenged my thinking and helped me in my research is the Cultural Studies of Science Education group. And specifically, I'd like to thank the co-editor of that journal, Dr. Catherine Milne, and the other colleagues in that community. Thank you very much.
Please welcome to the stage Neil D. Finkelstein.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the Exemplary Contributions to Practice Engaged Research Award, our committee is thrilled to present this year's award to Dr. Ann Ishimaru from the University of Washington. Dr. Ishimaru has balanced her commitment to service and research in a way that is an inspiration and a model for education researchers. One of her letters of support captured the sentiment so clearly. In short, her work can best be understood as an effort to simultaneously build leadership and improve understanding of how to build it, especially in settings in which many participants have been systematically disempowered. Dr. Ishimaru has taken her work to communities by engaging with principals, with parents, with superintendents, and all of the stakeholders in our communities to improve the engagement of our families. Dr. Ishimaru, the committee congratulates you on this wonderful achievement. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for this incredible honor. Much of my work is about learning from and with families and communities. My own family taught me gratitude to all who make us well and whole. So I want to begin by thanking the Indigenous peoples whose land we are on today, and to appreciate my parents. My partner Zach, my 3 kids, and particularly my grandparents, all of whom were incarcerated by our own government in a political climate that has become only too contemporary. I'd like to thank the AERA committee who selected me, those who nominated me, my doctoral advisor, Dr. Mark Warren, the University of Washington College of Education dean, colleagues and students who support my work and make it possible, and my academic family, a number of whom are here today. I have to tell you, though, there's a certain irony in being singled out for contributions to research that engages deeply with practice and communities, when this kind of work is never something that any of us does on our own. Although I've been fortunate to work with educators across the P-12 system, I particularly want to honor the powerful parent leaders, community of color-led organizations, community organizers, and families from diverse racial and ethnic communities who've walked with me in this work. Non-dominant families and communities too often remain outside the processes of knowledge production and decision-making in education. But it's their expertise and leadership that illuminate the deeply rooted racial inequities in our systems and help build our knowledge about what's possible to transform them. So research collaborations with these families and communities and educators give me hope. They give me hope that we can, together, build towards community well-being and educational justice. Thank you very much.
Please welcome to the stage Kofi Lomote.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the Social Justice Action Committee, I am pleased to have the opportunity to introduce the recipient of the 2017 AERA Social Justice in Education Award, Dr. Estella Mara Ben-Simone. She is currently a professor of higher education at the University of Southern California and director of USC's Center for Urban Education, which she founded in 1999. Dr. Ben-Simone's commitment to social justice is evident in her application of knowledge on organizational learning, leadership, and equity on the ground at colleges and universities in several states. Her current research is on issues of racial equity in higher education from the perspective of organizational learning and socio-cultural practice theories. She's particularly interested in practitioner-driven inquiry as a means of organizational change in higher education. She focuses on increasing equity in higher education outcomes for students of color, and she developed the Equity Scorecard, a process for using inquiry to drive changes in institutional practice and culture. Dr. Bensimon has made significant scholarly contributions to the field, focusing on equity, organizational learning, practitioner inquiry, and change. Professor Estella Mara Bensimon.
I'm very grateful to the Social Justice Action Committee for selecting me as its 2017 award recipient. The work of academics is often portrayed as solitary and highly individualized, but I have been fortunate to have many wonderful colleagues, mentors, and inspiration from the work of other scholars, many of them who are here today. Foremost, Bill Tierney, Sean Harper, Anna Newman, Alicia Dowd, and Lindsay Malcolm PQ. I also want to thank Agapito Diaz, my husband, and my mother, who's 93 years old and might be watching this. I did not get here all by myself. I was lucky to have great company throughout my career. Since 1999, when I founded the Center for Urban Education at USC, my work has focused on making racial inequality in higher education public to practitioners, leaders, policymakers, and scholars. My aim has been to build institutional capacity to make racial equity in educational opportunity and outcomes a matter of institutional accountability and professional responsibility. It is imperative that we who have the privilege of ARA membership invest our intellectual, academic, and positional privilege to resist the new racism agenda being advanced by President Trump. As the recipient of the Social Justice in Education Award, I will work hard to embody the spirit and practice of social justice. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Jae-Kyung Lee.
Good afternoon. The E.F. Lindquist Award honors a distinguished scholar and researcher in recognition of outstanding research in the field of testing and measurement. The award is co-sponsored by AERA and ACT. On behalf of the E.F. Lindquist Award Committee, composed of myself, Henny Brown, Nancy Peterson, Stephen Loudenbush, and James Warlock, I'm very pleased to present this year's award to Dr. Wawa Cheng, Professor of Educational Psychology, and Statistics at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. Dr. Cheng has made significant contributions to educational measurement and testing, especially in the field of computer adaptive testing. The development of the computer adaptive testing will be nowhere near what it is today without his original contribution, including the development of optimal methods for the item selection. He is a visionary, expanding his computer adaptive testing research into adaptive learning, for individualized education. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Wawa Cheng.
Good afternoon. First, this is my deep honor. I came from China in 1984 as a poor student with only one suitcase. Half of the suitcase were Xerox copies of some textbooks with only $60 in my pocket. I appreciate my alma mater, University of Illinois. They treated me so well, faculties, staff, and people. I received the best education. And now I would like to thank the committee for selecting me to receive this award. I also would like to thank Professor Chun Wen, who nominated me for this award. I also would like to thank my former employer, Educational Testing Service National Board of Medical Examiners, the Chinese University of Hong Kong, and UT Austin. They provided me the best platform to carry out my research. I would like to thank my wife, Jialing, for her unconditional love and support. Testing and measurement are becoming more and more important in this big data era. There are so many challenges. However, challenges bring us opportunities. Thank you very much.
Please welcome to the stage Carol D. Lee.
So I am delighted to be here to announce the winner of the Excellence in Media Reporting on Education Research Award. As many of you know, this award was inaugurated last year, so this is the second year. And to thank the members of our committee that included Greg Duncan, Jeffrey Hennick, Ben Wildowski, and Holly Yetic. Emily Hanford is the Senior Education Correspondent for APM Reports of American Public Media in St. Paul, Minneapolis, producing award-winning radio documentary programs that appear on public radio stations across the country. She reports, produces, writes, and co-hosts documentaries about education with a focus on opportunity and equity, the experiences of students and teachers, and how research affects policy and classroom practice. She has formerly worked for the North Carolina Public Radio and my hometown, WBEZ Chicago Public Radio. She's earned numerous awards for her reporting, including the Alfred DuPont Silver Baton from Columbia University's Graduate School of Journalism, the Casey Medal for Meritorious Journalism, the Harry Chaplin Media Award, and multiple awards from the Education Writers Association, among others. Her documentaries on implications of educational research have been broadcast on more than 250 stations, including 8 of the top 10 media markets in the country, as well as overseas. Each documentary includes articles, photographs, and data, illustrations linked to the research being reported, reaching practitioners and the general public. Emily frames the research reports for a general audience in narrative storylines that make the data and findings accessible and compelling. For example, in a recent report on findings from the Perry Preschool Project, conducted from 1962 to 1967, she located the teacher and coach who had conducted the original interviews of participants over the 4-decade longitudinal study, allowing her to tell firsthand narratives of these actual participants as compelling and detailed stories. For the breadth of important research topics that she has addressed and her creative abilities to translate research for a general audience and practitioner, the AERA Media Awards Committee recognizes Emily Hanford.
Sorry. Thank you so much. I'm truly honored to receive this award from this organization. Education researchers are truly my heroes. I am so grateful to all of you for the data, for the insights, for the illumination that your work provides. I want to give a special shout out. I don't know if he's here. Well, first I want to give a special shout out to the Spencer Foundation. My job was initially made possible by a grant from Spencer. I know Spencer's an important organization in this particular room. No one here doesn't know who Spencer is. Anyway, my job was initially made possible because of a grant from Spencer and continues in large part because of the generous and ongoing support of that foundation. And I want to take a particular moment to say thank you to Mike McPherson, who's the president of the Spencer Foundation, for the support that he has given my work over the years, and also the way that he has championed and written really big checks to support education journalism in general. As most of you know, Mike is retiring this year, and last night in his remarks at the Spencer lecture, he told the audience that journalism can, quote, help people think better about education. And that is indeed what I hope to be able to continue to do for many years to come. So thank you, Mike, and thank you so much, AERA, for this award and for all that all of you in this room do. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Laura W. Perna.
Hello. On behalf of the committee, I'm honored to introduce this year's recipient of the AERA Award for Outstanding Public Communication of Education Research, Kevin G. Wellner. Professor Wellner is the epitome of a public intellectual. Drawing on his JD and his PhD, Professor Wellner produces high-quality scholarship. But more than this, he also effectively communicates his own and others' research findings to decision makers and policy specialists in education. He also effectively communicates to mainstream media and the general public. As the director of the National Education Policy Center, he has been an influential source of accessible, data-driven, peer-reviewed policy research on important and policy-relevant topics. His work also often corrects deliberately biased presentations and misinterpretations of authors and organizations that use flawed research to bolster ideologies. His record exemplifies engaged scholarship and public communication of research. Unfortunately, Professor Wellner couldn't be here today. Jeannie Oakes is here to accept this award on his behalf.
Well, I have the great honor and privilege of accepting this award for this smart, amazing lawyer who walked into my office at UCLA about 2 decades ago and said, you know, I think education research can make the world a better place, and that's what I want to do. So it's been my privilege to be Kevin's colleague and good friend, and he is so sorry he can't be here. In true Kevin fashion, he has a very ill mother, and for him, there was no question. He's with her and knows that all of you will keep them both in his thoughts. He asked me to thank everybody here, the committee especially, and his colleagues at CU Boulder, what he calls the 2 best deans in the whole world, Lori Shepard and Kathy Schultz, and to his colleagues at the National Education Policy Center. So thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Kent McGuire.
Thank you. Thank you again. You know, that research would influence or shape policy outcomes with the public interest in mind is a long-standing ambition of ours, I know, all too infrequently realized. We're living in times when we should hope that research and data and information, not the alternative, would make a really big difference. It takes someone who has been around long enough, worked hard enough and persistently enough to create the real opportunities for research to make a difference when we see it. Just look at California, special times, and take someone who has worked on the issues in many different ways. I was trying to think of someone who might have had more jobs than me. Few people come to mind, but Dr. Kirst is one of them. He cannot be here today. We just couldn't work it out in his schedule. But Dan Schwartz is here to accept the Distinguished Public Service Award on his behalf, an award I think is very much befitting Michael Kirst. Thank you all.
So, in case you're not sure, I am not Mike Kirst. No, the picture's gone. I wish I were. I'm honored to accept this award on his behalf. He's deeply regretful that he can't be here, but he will be here next year to give his speech. So as you heard, he spent his career, he started with Governor Brown Academy, Governor Brown again. He's made tremendous changes by working with government leaders, school districts, policy. The amazing thing in all his work is that he's always managed to get research in the center, which is a hard thing to do in policy. So he's been a great and a strong advocate for America's school children, and his work has made their lives better. And I believe his ideas will continue to make more and more lives better. So I want to thank you and thank AERA for recognizing his contributions.
Please welcome to the stage Vanessa Siddle Walker.
Good afternoon. I have the distinct privilege of giving an award to one who actually needs no introduction in almost any discipline on many continents, from the East Coast of this country to the West Coast of this country. For 6 decades, educational researchers have benefited from the groundbreaking work and skilled analysis of this economist. Since the 1970s, he has taught us across this country and world about the costs of inadequate education. And we learn continually, even today, from his Center for Benefit Cost Studies in Education at Teachers College. Few in the audience do not already know this economist. I'd like to say that I worked with an extraordinary committee: Eugene Garcia, Prudence Carter, Richard Murnane, Margaret Spencer, and Jane Hanaway. We reviewed an extraordinarily strong candidate pool this year. Thank you to all of you who solicited and sent nominations for the award. However, after a very careful conversation, by unanimous consent, we award this year's Distinguished Contribution to Research and Education Award to Henry Levin. Congratulations, Dr. Levin.
Thank you very much, and I wish to express my appreciation to the committee, Vanessa, of course, and the committee members. I wanted to just mention one feature of my career that I see less and less of today, and that is I was lucky. I started my career in a new field, the economics of education. No one knew what I was supposed to be doing, which was just wonderful for me. And publication, well, lucky. I loved to write. It was just something I loved to do. So I didn't feel any pressure at all about publication. In fact, it gave me an excuse to do what I loved to do. And it was an age in which I was allowed to follow my own curiosity. Our fields were not as hierarchical in terms of importance, prestige, methods that must be followed if you're going to prove something or provide evidence. And so I was able not only to do the economics of education, but I got involved in a decade of work on worker democracy. I was able to do work on the economics of micronutrients for the World Bank. I was able to think about, work on, and develop a movement called the Accelerated Schools Project, which said we should be giving all of our children enrichment, gifted and talented education, not remediation. And so I worry today about the opportunities that are available to young people. I see hiring of more and more contingent faculty who do not have these opportunities, more and more of use of technology, but I'm referring to mindless use of technology, not necessarily good uses of technology. Pressure to publish, which is resulting in a corruption of the publication process, in my view. I can give a number of examples, but one of them is you're going to see more and more co-authors of articles, not necessarily because they all made a contribution to the research, but because it is a quid pro quo. If there are 5 names on an article, they'll all get citations, and then those other 4 names, when they publish articles, they have to put my name on the article as part of this arrangement. So I'm concerned about the future of our profession. I want people to have more opportunity, more luck, because I think it's going to make us better educators. It's going to be better for all of our students, and we're going to be able to make far greater differences in such areas as social justice. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage Vivian Gadsden.
I am delighted that we now have these presidential citations. And I am especially delighted that I'm able to give 3 this year. The first is to Dr. Alfredo Artiles. And I'm going to ask you to read through his many contributions, but I will read a couple of lines. This citation recognizes Dr. Artiles for his major contributions to research and scholarship on equity across areas of inequality within the United States and across 5 continents. His interdisciplinary scholarship examines the ways that cultural practices and ideologies of difference mediate school responses to students' needs and focuses on teacher learning for social justice. His strength of purpose and depth of intellect are reflected in his unwavering dedication to addressing questions of discrimination and difference and promoting academic excellence for equity and change. I needed to read that, as I will do for the others, because I took the time to write it. And because he is so deserving. This presidential citation is presented to Alfredo Artiles for his exemplary contributions to research and scholarship on equity across areas of inequality.
Thank you, President Gaston. I'm deeply honored to receive this recognition, and as you know, recognitions are always good occasions to reflect about our own lives and trajectories. As I get older, I connect increasingly with anthropologist Mary Catherine Bateson's perspective on what it means to compose a life. Indeed, composing a program of scholarly work is, to a significant extent, an improvisational art. Like life, careers take turns and throw curveballs at us, no matter how old and wise we may think we are. In my own lifetime, I've learned 2 languages and lived in 4 different countries fraught with inequalities. I've had positions of privilege, continue to do that, as well as marginality. My beautiful daughter Antonella reminds me every day that the starting place is always the sense of wonder. Because of all of these experiences, I learned to be adaptive, to stay in touch with the past as I imagine futures, and appreciate how cultural contexts shape people's identities, perspectives, and experiences. And it is not surprising, therefore, that my interdisciplinary scholarship is informed, given these experiences, by history and culture theories. It's concerned with the complex and intersectional nature of psychological and sociocultural identities. It is also equally important to say that it tries to account for the epistemological underpinnings that we bring to the research we produce, excuse me, particularly about marginalized communities. Now, we don't get to where we are in life alone. I benefit from the mentoring and the support of many colleagues and friends, many of whom are in this room. I can't acknowledge all of them, but I want to mention that they have been instrumental in my work, as well as the inspiration I get from students over the years, particularly the Sociocultural Research Group. I hope that we'll continue to work together in more research related to educational equity, especially educational equity research that advances educational opportunity for marginalized communities. I hope we'll continue to forge new lexicons to understand what counts as justice for different groups, to refashion analytical approaches, and to advance the mutual intelligibility of research across disciplines. Thank you, President Gaston and ARA. I'm proud to work in the interdisciplinary research communities of this organization. Thank you.
The second citation is given to Dr. Henry T. Frierson, and it recognizes Dr. Frierson for his scholarly contributions to inquiry and program evaluation in educational psychology, and his unswerving commitment to supporting the next generation of education researchers and scholars. His vision for collaboration across fields and communities of researchers is most notable in the Research Roundtable for Scholars of Color at ARA's annual meeting, which he has organized for 21 years. Dr. Frierson has dedicated his life's work to examining the effects of mentoring, examining effective and efficient production of doctoral recipients from high-quality programs, reducing inequality, and advancing equal educational opportunity in the academy. I'm thrilled to give this award, this citation, to my friend, Dr. Henry Frierson.
Thank you too, President Gaston. I humbly thank ARA for this presidential citation. The only other citations I've received were for speeding. So, I'm extremely honored to receive recognition for the things that I so love to do, and it's really like cheating to receive an award for that. I give honor to the many students with whom I've connected over the years, and my many wonderful colleagues. Further, I give honor to my family, my wife, Wendelin, my 2 children, Desmond and Ayana, and our 4 grandchildren with 1 on the way, and especially to my 95-year-old mother, Lorraine. All of those I mentioned and so many others have given me the underpinning to reach this point today, and I humbly thank you again.
And last but not least, we want to recognize Dr. Gloria Ladson Billings, former ARA president. And this citation recognizes her extraordinary contributions to education research and practice, reframing debates ranging from teaching and pedagogy to the achievement gap. Her scholarship on critical race theory, access, and the education debt is widely acclaimed. Dr. Ladson Billings' cutting-edge work reminds us as well that the acts and processes of teaching, schooling, and learning form the basis for belief. That is a guiding philosophy that all children matter, that all teachers are capable of engaging and respecting the diversity of students, and that through our research we can make a difference in efforts toward equity, change, and equal opportunity. In addition to her incredible scholarship, she was my first and only roommate at AERA. Gloria Ladson Billings.
Good afternoon. Thank you, President Vivian Gadsden, and thank you to my colleagues, students, and friends at the nation's #1 public school of education, the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I also want to thank you, say thank you to, a special thank you to my parents, the late James and Jessie Ladson, to my husband, Charles Billings, my children, and my amazing grandchildren, for teaching me and embodying what I think are the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, and I will paraphrase, everybody can be great because everybody can serve. You don't need to be able to match your subject and your verb. You don't need to know the first law of physics or thermodynamics. You just have to live a life of grace and have a heart of care. Thank you.
You know, it's really hard to make the decision of exactly who you will give the awards to, but because so many people are doing such incredible work in this association. But I am thrilled to have been able to give those citations. So I'd like Angela Arzubiaga and James Davis to come up. So these were my program chairs, co-chairs this year. James, I've known all of my professional career, and he's a great friend. And I knew that he understood me because he has gotten phone calls from me at 1, 2 a.m. as I had an idea. And I thought he could actually get Angela up to speed on how crazy I might be at any time. But she has just been outstanding, as has James. And I think that our program this year reflects the expansive issues that should be affecting us in our work in our field. And I can't tell you how grateful and appreciative I am for your brilliance and for your integrity and for your commitment to AERA in this year's program. Thank you so much. This goes to Angela and to James in recognition of the outstanding effort, assistance, cooperation, and professionalism that significantly contributed to the success of the association's annual meeting. I really would appreciate your giving them a huge round of applause.
Thank you, Vivian. This has been a labor of love, and we wouldn't have done it without the guidance and the inspiration and the elegance of President Gadsden. Yes, we're friends and colleagues. Yes, we are friends and colleagues, but Vivian is much more to me. She's been truly an inspiration and a role model and a late night colleague for sure. Lindsay, don't drink. And we would like to thank all of you for your contributions in bringing this program to fruition. It wouldn't have been possible without you. Thanks.
Thank you, Vivian, for the opportunity. But also, we take the opportunity to name those with whom this year's program would not have been possible. Thank you, Felice Levine, Robert Smith, Samara Fettner, and Sarita de la Torre. We admiringly appreciate your diligence and patience with helping us make the program a reality. Special thanks to the program committee members for their thoughtful work and collaborations on the 2017 program, and the many others who supported us along the way, including Lance Nave. Thank you.
Okay, great, we're almost done. Just a couple of things, though, before I say the last couple of statements. First, before I leave, I'd like to express my thanks for the struggles that occurred on the lands on which we stand and the contributions of the indigenous peoples. And second, yes. And second, I had planned to do this even without Antonia's comments, which were really compelling. If you are close to one of the people serving, I want to say to those who are serving, can you just ask them to stop for just a minute? You are not invisible for many of us, if not for all of us, but you're certainly not invisible to me. And so I want to thank you for everything that you have done today and that you have done throughout our meeting. And know that we will really make sure that we fight for the kind of education, for those of you who have children, that they deserve, and that we will work continuously to make sure that justice is somehow realized in this country. Thank you so much. We are honored here today to have been able to recognize and celebrate the accomplishments of this year's award winners and presidential citation recipients. I love giving awards. I love giving presents, as my husband will tell you. Please give all of them a final round of applause.